Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Bayou Bets for a Monday, a blue Monday, November the 27th, 2023. Oh, we got so many things to talk about today. None of them good. No, some of them might be good. We'll see.
Tulane's good.
Tulane's good. That's true. Jayden Daniels is good, but he's just not getting a lot of love. All right, let's get to it. Reminder that Caesars Sportsbook is the official. If I can move this thing, there we go. Sorry, I had all kinds of messages blanking up on my screen as I was trying to read what's on my screen. Caesars Sportsbook is official odds partner of bet.NOLA.com, and a reminder to subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel so you can always find out when we go live. I am Jim Derry. We're along with Spencer the Guru Urquhart. Spencer, our topics today, I'll let you fill in the blank for whatever you want to give, and then Saints, exclamation point. We'll let you fill in the blank in just a little bit. Also, we're going to talk about, is it Jayden Daniels? Is it Bo Nix? I don't know. We'll talk about it. One more for the Tulane Green Wave and the AAC championship game. That is coming up this weekend. They earned it with a win over UTSA last weekend, and they will play one more with a chance for that New Year's Day Bowl, or New Year's Six Bowl, should I say. And then we'll briefly preview Bears at Vikings and Monday Night Football. Oh, another stinker. We got a lot of comments already. Let's get to them. Spencer, what is up?
Hey, Jim. Yeah, I guess I'll start it off by filling in that blank with, what the hell, Saints? Every freaking week, it's something they find a new way to lose. It's just brutal. I predicted it. I got to be real, but I was, they're kind of getting my hopes up during the game, especially they picked Ritter twice. I was like, well, I guess the Falcons just going to hand it to him, but nope, they didn't take it.
Yep, T-Mama is saying hello, and she's shaking her head already. Well, hello, T-Mama. How are you?
Hello.
How are you this afternoon? Mr. Horace is, hopefully Saints fans can figure it out before complete season collapse, blowing a division title. It was theirs for the taking. We're going to get into that. Rhoda Perkins, hello. How are you? Thanks to you for joining Bayou Bets this afternoon. Oh, boy.
Our old friend's back.
Our old friend Wayne. Bookies rule, it's all rigged. Well, why would it be rigged for Atlanta? I mean, what would make it rigged for Atlanta? Why wouldn't they rig it for the Saints? I don't understand that. UBN's here. Spencer should be happy. He's got the Falcons winning the division. Well, let's get to it.
Future on them.
Well, you're not the favorite right now. The New Orleans Saints are still the favorite to win the NFC South. As of about 10, 15 minutes ago, it was Saints plus 125, Falcons 135. Earlier today, it was plus 120 for the Falcons and plus 125 for the Saints. So while the Saints haven't moved, the Falcons odds have, which means the Saints are just a very slight favorite to win the NFC South. Although the Super Bowl odds have changed dramatically, or drastically, should I say. Now they are 100-1. If you think the Saints are on the Super Bowl, first of all, I'll give you my number, and I will try to talk you off the ledge and get you some help. But if you think the Saints are going to win the Super Bowl and you want to bet on it, 100-1, the Saints are now. What do you think of that?
Oh, man. Yeah, I said it a few weeks ago, and I'll say it again. I'm not touching any NFC South teams winning the Super Bowl. You give me 1,000-1. I don't care. I'm not touching it, because the bottom line is whoever wins the NFC South, like you said on Datitudes, going to get their butts whooped by Dallas, most likely, whoever gets that 5 seed.
That's not exactly how I said it, but it was something along those lines. I was a little bit meaner, cruel. What did you say about Honey Badger? What did he say earlier today?
Yeah, Honey Badger, I think it was on Instagram, actually, Twitter, Instagram, some social media stuff, was saying, since it's Cyber Monday, he was like, y'all need to go half off on the hate in the day. Well, hate to break it to you, Honey Badger. They're going to go even more in on the hate in the day after the stinker that the Saints put up there, and what was, as my dad was saying, a division title there for the taking. Had they won that game, would have been in the catbird seat. Now they're just like they've been all year, just ho-hum, and I don't think that'll be good enough.
I think what upset me more than anything is, I was really trying to find, I'm dead serious, I was trying to find a way to pick against the Saints last week. And what I mean by that, not because I wanted them to lose like you see in the headline, but because this team can't stand prosperity. But then when I went through it, I'm like, Atlanta's the same damn team. I mean, they can't stand prosperity either. They stink too. So I took the team that I know, not think. I took the team I still know is the better team, But yet the Saints proved me right in the first place. My original thought was the right one, and I didn't go with it. They can't stand prosperity. There's no way they're going to take command of this division, and yet they didn't. 24-15 losers. They get in the red zone 5 times. They're stinging. I said it on Data 2 this morning. I'm not defending any of these clowns anymore. I'm not defending Dennis Allen at all. I wasn't really defending him, but I wasn't going against him like everybody else. I've been defending Derek Carr. You can't get in the red zone 5 times and just go, oh, well, we didn't do it, blah, blah, blah. No, get mad. I want somebody to get mad. No one's getting mad. I don't get it. So I'm not defending any of these clowns anymore. I still think the Saints are a bargain at plus 125, but yeah, I'm not going to put any money on it either.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, to me, I was looking at the NFC South. Oz actually just wrote up a little piece on bet.NOLA.com. And to me, if you're looking for value there, because the NFC South is basically the only division that's wide open. The AFC North still somewhat up for grabs, but the NFC South is the only real wide open division. Tampa Bay, I believe, at plus 450 or so. That would be the value if you're looking for value, because they've all got 6 games left. 4 of the 6 are against NFC South teams. I'm not saying I'm not picking them. I'm still going with Atlanta. But if you're looking for value, to me, there's no value on the Saints at plus 125 or with Atlanta at plus 130. If you didn't get Atlanta earlier like I did, to me, you missed the boat. I don't like them now at plus 130. But Tampa at plus 4 something, I mean, they might steal this thing, because it doesn't seem like the Saints or Atlanta. I know Atlanta won yesterday, but I have the future. I'm not counting my chickens yet there, because they didn't impress me.
I think Michael Pratt has a better chance to win the Heisman than Tampa Bay of winning the NFC South. That's just my opinion. I don't know. Sav, I thank you. Data 2 was spot on. Well, I mean, I went off for 45 minutes. At some point, I got to be right if I go off for 45 minutes. The red zone woes are back. You know what's worse than the red zone? And by the way, before I get to that, Jeff Haspel, you are correct, sir. They play like they don't care. They have no heart. This team has no heart. I dare anyone that wears black and gold for a living in that room, whether it be a coach, an administrator, a player, don't just say you want to fight me either. I dare you to show me, prove to me that you play with heart, because you don't. And that is absolutely coaching. There's no question about it. So no sane fan would root for their team to lose, Spencer. But however, you know, it is hard to see the road for this team and what they do. And I was talking about Derek Carr. And I know that there are probably a majority of Saints fans. They don't all want Jameis Winston, because a lot of them hate Jameis Winston too. But when you're thinking about what the future is for this team and where you might be able to go, the problem is you're married to Derek Carr through the end of next season, which means that barring injury, whether Saints fans want to hear it or not, I've said this before, for the next 23 games, Derek Carr, at least if they go to the playoffs 24, for at least the next 23 games, Derek Carr is your starting quarterback.
Oh, man, that's a tough reality to come to grips with, considering how brutal he's been, especially with the red zone. And it's just, they keep saying, what frustrates me with it is the press conference. It's the same thing. Like, we got to clean it up in the red zone. We got to clean it up. But they never do, really. They had a few games where they were a little better. But then in a game where it really matters, they go back to doing what they were doing in the early part of the season. And that's just not good enough when you're paying a QB $30+ million a year. And I'll give him a little credit for being not just like completely off the wagon, but also, though, you have to show some fight. It's okay. Yep. You're not losing it. You're staying calm, but you can't stay too calm, though. You got to have a good balance. Like, I feel like Drew Brees was able to have that great balance. And I know Drew Brees is gone. He's never coming back. I understand that.
You finally learned it. You finally learned how to say it.
Yeah, but if you're Derek Carr, though, you need to be taking a lot of pages out of that book and just, but the problem is he's over 30 years old now. And if he hadn't become a better leader by now, I don't think he ever will, unfortunately. But bottom line is they're stuck with him. And so they're going to have to just hope they win the division. And
they're absolutely stuck with him. And Dustin says he'll end up being as an expensive backup. No, he's not. He's not going to be a backup to anyone. They're not going to sit him. They're just not going to do it. It's not going to happen. Barry Ulay, his repetitive rant. Saints go 9-7. He means 9-8. That 9-7. I still can't get used to that either, Barry. I'm with you. It would be 9-8 if they go 4-2. They keep losing to bad teams. I mean, yesterday, what was the most frustrating part of yesterday, and I said this in that this morning as well, talking about Arthur Smith, who I continue to say is worse than Dennis Allen, although I guess I could be proved wrong by the end of the year. I mean, I'm definitely not betting on that. I'm just saying, if you wanted a value, that's what I would bet on, but I'm not betting on it. I'm not using my own money. I'm just telling you what the value is. That being said, when you go into a game and Arthur Smith self-proclaimed that this was the biggest game of his career, how sad is that? You're 5-6. You're ahead of the NFC South. Big whoop. You're 5-6. You still have a losing record, and this is the biggest game of your career. And the Saints can't beat a team whose biggest game of the guy's career, and he still has a losing record.
Yeah, that's pretty sad. And UVN, I see his point there about Carr. I mean, that's something though that he should have had the locker room more on his side before the season. I feel like I remember after that Jacksonville game, he got a little fired up, but at that point, it's like, man, you got to have him. As soon as you walk in that building, you've got to step in and show that you're the leader. So, I mean, I know I'm holding him to a high standard here, but to me, you have to if you're the quarterback of a team that wants to be a contender like this team claims to be.
Well, the next point, Dustin McCann says he means the next coach will sit Derek Carr. The next coach isn't coming anytime soon. I hate to tell y'all this, but there is no next coach, not anytime soon. Maybe in 2025, maybe. But the Saints, we talked about this in pre-production and what would need to happen for them to get a new coach. The Saints would have to go, let's see, they've got 5 wins right now. They'd have to, I think 7-10, he's a lock to come back. He's coming back if they go 7-10. So that means they need 2 more wins. I don't see how they don't win 2 more. You can say whatever you want because they're up and down, up and down, up and down. So they're going to win at least 2 more games. They're probably going to win 4, I think. So even if they only win 3, at 8-9, he is an absolute cinch to come back. So this coach isn't going to sit Derek Carr, which means Derek Carr's not going anywhere. So I don't we could talk about what might happen and the Saints could get this draft pick and the Saints are rooting, fans are rooting for their team to lose because they want to get a better draft pick and they want Dennis Allen to be fired. Well, A, like I said, Dennis Allen's not getting fired. And B, who says the Saints know what to do with a better draft pick?
Right. Yeah. I mean, the hope would be if you really want a new quarterback, you'd have to hope that they would get a high enough pick to possibly get Jayden Daniels. I mean, it'd probably be pretty unlikely that Jayden does. I mean, the way his stock's going, he'll probably end up a top 10 draft pick. And I don't think the Saints are going to lose enough games to get a top 10 draft pick, but maybe they could trade up. I mean, the Chiefs traded up into the top 10 to get Patrick Mahomes and block the Saints from getting him. And so maybe the Saints could swing a trade to do that, but I
don't know that that's necessarily the case. I could see why you would think
Payton didn't.
But even if, it's the double whammy. The Saints don't draft LSU quarterbacks, and they don't draft quarterbacks. We said this, I don't know if it was the last show or last week or within the last couple of weeks. I know I said this on the air. The last time that a Saints quarterback played multiple games in a season, in other words, a guy that was drafted by the Saints and played more than 1 game in a season, that started more than 1 game in a season, Danny Werfel, back before you and Gabe were even born. I mean, that's the Saints they just don't do it.
Yeah, they have Matthew, he's with you there. They haven't drafted a QB higher than the 3rd round, 30 to something years. Yeah, I mean, and I thought you wouldn't even have to start the rookie if it'd be Jayden. Mahomes sat his rookie year, and look how that turned out. So you just start Carr next year, and then go with the rookie in 2025. But I mean, they don't listen to me. I mean, I said they should have fired Pete Carmichael this offseason. I said that was their number 1 priority this offseason. Should have been to fire Pete Carmichael and start over on offense. So that just goes to show how much they listen to me.
Mark says, Saints fan living here in Philly. So depressing to see how the Eagles front office has built this team compared to the Saints organization. Look, Mark, and by the way, Griswold, I hate to make fun, but I mean, what's the Christmas light situation? Does it look good out there? I mean, you got everything going. You didn't blow up anything in the house, did you? I hope everything's in the right socket and all that stuff. Look, I agree with you. If the Philly Eagles can get a new GM a few years ago and turn everything around, everything is revolved around Jalen Hurts. And if you look at that offensive line, they got the best offensive line in football, or one of the top O lines in football. And that's why Jalen Hurts has been able to be successful as he's been. It's you want to talk about bringing Jayden Daniels into this organization, and that's a great idea in theory. I think it would be wonderful for this organization. But are they going to build around him if they do that? If they draft they don't know how to draft a quarterback, and they certainly don't know how to build around a drafted quarterback. They did it for Drew Brees way back when, and as long as Peyton was here, but they just don't think like that. I mean, I've already seen mock drafts, which I know don't mean anything right now, but if the Saints draft another defensive lineman in the first round, I'm going to lose my bleep on the air, on this air. I mean, they're not going to be able to run me because I might be able to say words that's going to get me fired. They draft another defensive lineman in the first round.
Whew. Yeah, I mean, it'd be pretty rough, but it wouldn't shock me because that just seems to be the MO, Mickey Loomis's MO in his later years. And I mean, God bless Mickey. He did a lot of great things for this organization, but it's time for him to go. I mean, it's not just retire. I don't think he deserves to be fired, but I mean, the team's not a total disaster, but it's getting to the point where it's kind of like Belichick. Well, I mean, Belichick's been a disaster this year, but it's like, bro, just retire. You've had your run, your legacy sealed. Just go out before you just become a complete laughing stock.
I just don't get it sometimes, man. I really don't. And look, Mickey, I understand what he's trying to do. He wanted to be able to say, I didn't just get lucky with Sean Payton. He wanted to kind of build after Sean Payton. First of all, he wasn't expecting Sean to leave that early. I think in his mind, he was probably thinking, I'll go out the same time he does. And then he was shocked that he left when he did. So he's kind of left there and he's like, well, I can't leave now. So I think feels like he's kind of stuck, and he probably doesn't want to go out on this note. So, and I understand that from Mickey Loomis, but the loyalty from this team and upper management, he's going to have to make a decision soon. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, I'm to the point now where there are changes that are going to be made, but I talked about this morning. One of the things that is depressing is not even what they're doing this year. It's the fact that they're so salary cap strapped for next year. I don't know that there's any way that they can fix it for next year. I don't know that there's any way they can be any better than next year. And if you don't think you're going to be better next year, it gets better in 2025. So if you don't think you're going to be better next year, I'm almost like, why would you even bring in another coach right now? Just kind of suck it up and say, you know what? Next year's a lost cause. And for all you people who are rooting for them to lose and say they stink and want them to stink and all that, they're going to do that on their own next year anyway. Maybe just let them do it next year. The problem is, we talked about this as well. The quarterbacks in the 2025 draft are nowhere near as good as the quarterbacks this year.
Agreed, which is why to me they should take one this year, and hopefully Mickey would be like, look, for the sake of the organization, we need a rookie QB, because the bottom line is all the best teams in the NFL right now are building around young QBs. The Chiefs with Mahomes,
they are.
The Eagles with Hurts. Yep. Cowboys drafted Dak. 49ers drafted Brock Purdy. Bills with Josh Allen. I know they're not doing too good right now. But I mean, Tua with the Dolphins. Bengals with Burrow. The list goes on and on. The bottom line is you've got to build with a QB through the draft in order to have a successful run these days. Because, I mean, Drew Brees isn't going to come up again in free agency. That was a once-in-a-lifetime lucky thing. And you got to draft somebody.
And, you talk about some of these teams, even the 49ers, they didn't intend on Brock Purdy being their future starting quarterback. They drafted Trey Lance to do that, but Trey Lance didn't work out, and they just happened to get it right with Brock Purdy. So, yes, that's lucky, but all the other guys you mentioned, you think about all the teams that are good right now. Even Tua the Dolphins basically building around their offense and saying, we'll worry about defense later, which is kind of what the Saints did. And like you said, got lucky with Breeze. I mean, they're not going to, but if they would just look around and look at the blueprints and get with the times, and I'm an old man saying this, I agree with you. I think teams that don't build around young quarterbacks, they're going to go the way of the old ancient dinosaur. They're not, I mean, New England Patriots, God bless Bill Belichick. I still think he's the greatest coach of at least of my lifetime, but you can't build around a guy like Mac Jones. You're trying to build around your defense, basically, and they brought in Mac Jones because they thought he would be a quarterback that wouldn't kill them. I mean, you can't do that. You have to have a quarterback that can do all sorts of different things. T-Mama's really hating.
Yeah, Steelers with Kenny Pickett, same
Absolutely.
story. I know they're winning right now, but that's not going to last.
I agree. Sean Payton is a snake planning with the Dolphins, still coaching the Saints. Oh, you mean the Broncos? I don't know.
And he was tampering with the Dolphins.
Him
and Brady were thinking about going there.
Mark wants to know if Jake Hayner has any possibility of developing. I don't want to say no. Maybe. I mean, look, Brock Purdy, if anybody was said last year, even maybe at this time, probably think about it. Brock Purdy, I think, was just getting in at this time last year, and no one thought Brock Purdy was going to be anything. And he turned out to be one hell of a quarterback. And I think there's enough of a sample size to see that he is going to be good. So I would think probably not. But I mean, look, if you do lose your next 3 games or so, they're not going to. They play after Detroit. Even if they lose to Detroit, they got the Giants and they got
Carolina.
So they're going to lose to both of those teams. But if they would lose their next 3 games at home, then I would like to see it. Even though I don't think they'll do it, I'd like to see them get in there. I don't know. But so I don't know the answer. I wish I did. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get that. There you go. Iceberg's comment. New Orleans Saints, they get a new head coach and a good long-term quarterback. That's what we're talking about. It's just not this team's MO. So we'll see. But before we move on, look, let's talk about, because we want to talk about Jayden Daniels a little bit. We do want to talk about Tulane before we go off the air. Saints, Detroit this weekend. This line opened up last week at -3. And even though Detroit stunk on Thanksgiving, and they're kind of doing what I thought they would do, I really thought they were going to regress a little bit. Now, it takes more than one game to say you're in a regression, but the way they played against Green Bay, man, they've got issues. So, and the Saints are so up and down. Would not surprise. I'm not ready to pick this game. Only a fool would pick the Saints to win right now. But I mean, really, would it surprise you at all if the Saints won this game because up, and then lose to the Giants or something like that? I mean,
yeah, because it's like, Detroit, they burned me again on big bucks. They've been just kind of in a free fall right now. But another issue now with the Saints is the injury bugs creeping up. The first half of the year, they were relatively healthy. Now you're going to probably be without your starting 3 receivers.
Yep.
Plus the fact that Carr has been hit. I think he's been hit more this year than in any year of his career with all those early hits he took with the O-line. And I mean, he's got to get better at avoiding sacks, but it's just, I don't see any way. Maybe I'll change my mind later in the week when I do more research on Detroit. But I mean, just looking at this, to me, that Detroit -4, I feel like the Sharps are going to pound Detroit. I think that line
think you're
like
100%
5 or 6.
wrong. I think you couldn't be more. I know that's a Mabel line if there ever was one. Aunt Mabel is going to be all over Detroit. And that's why I don't know how you don't pick the Saints in this game, at least with the spread. I'm not saying they're going to win, but this line's going to keep going up. It'll be 5 by the weekend. It's going to keep going up. And I think the Sharps actually are going to play the other way. I'm going to be interested to see by about tomorrow is when I start looking at where the cash and the tickets go. I bet you cash is more in the Saints. We'll see. I promise to update you that on Thursday.
Okay, yeah. Another point before we move on to Heisman, I feel like the Sharps have been getting burned by the Saints. It seems like every week, the Sharps are on the Saints. But I feel like at a certain point, the Sharps are going to be like, we're done with the Saints. I mean, it's now 2 weeks in a row they got burned by them.
You would think. Dwayne asked, why keep Allen? And look, we're not advocating. Neither one of us are advocating to keep Dennis Allen. The point is, I'm not going to speak for Spencer, but I'm just telling you, from me watching this organization since the day I came out of the womb, which was a year after they started playing football. That's how old I am. They just don't do that. I mean, at least not since John Meekum sold the team to Tom Benson. The Bensons are loyal. They don't fire coaches. And they have a GM that's not going to fire a coach unless he absolutely and utterly has to. We saw it with Jim Haslett. I mean, I don't know how many times to explain it. They didn't fire Jim Haslett till they went through Katrina after a bunch of mediocre seasons, went 3-13, and were forced to fire him. That's about the only way they fire coaches. So I just don't see it. I don't see Dennis Allen getting fired. We'll see if it happens. But again, another thing, you're married to Derek Carr. You brought Derek Carr to be with Dennis Allen. Are you really going to fire Dennis Allen and hang on to Derek Carr? I don't see. Jeff, maybe the time has come. That's you wishing, buddy. I think a lot of people wish that. It's just that's not the MO of this team. Team Mama, me and you are the same age, babe. 55
Happy
years
birthday.
old. Happy birthday. That is, we're not old. We're just been around. We're experienced. That's the way to look at it, right? All right, we're going to come back to this slide in a little bit because we're going to finish up with the Monday Night Football game and give our prediction on that. But we can't go off the air today without talking about a little bit about both Jayden Daniels and about Tulane in the AAC title game. And first, let's start with Jayden Daniels. His odds have dropped. I knew that was a facade. He was like minus 125 last week. Bo Nix was plus 140, and now it is kind of reversed a little bit. And Jayden Daniels down to plus 125. I think we talked about this pre-production. I think we're all in agreement. Unless something really weird happens, unless Oregon loses, or if Nix has a really bad game and Oregon just like kind of barely wins, I think this is Bo Nix's award to lose.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that.
I don't want it that way. I wouldn't vote that way. I want to make it clear. I wouldn't vote that way. That's the way that I see it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I see it too, because of the way Washington is, even though they're 12-0, I mean, they basically collapsed. I mean, Michael Penix was just asking to lose that Apple Cup. I mean, he had a pick that Washington State dropped right in their hands. So to me, I know that he's plus 1,800. I even though that's theoretically like you'd say, oh, that's a value, because if Washington goes 13-0, Penix might have a big game and be able to get back in the conversation. But I have no faith in him right now. He looked shook after that game, even though they won. He just looked like he just was devastated because he knew that if it wasn't for that drop pick, he'd have cost them their season. So, I'd say Bo Nix is probably the move here, because I think Oregon will probably blow the doors off Washington. Nix will probably have a huge game, and that'll be all she wrote as far as most of these voters. Daniels definitely has the best statistical resume for the Heisman, but as we've talked about before, a lot of these voters don't worry about that. They care about who has the most the thrilling story to lead their team, and Bo Nix probably going to lead his team to the CFP.
You look at these numbers, and I mean, look, I just want to make it clear. If I had a vote, which I don't, Jayden Daniels would clearly be my vote. I mean, I don't see, you could just not look at anything. You don't need to look at anything when you have numbers like this. They're eye-popping. Basically, all three of them have the same passing numbers. They're all within 100 yards of one another. But yet Jayden Daniels has nearly 1,000 more yards than Nix and has 1,150 more yards rushing than Penix. It's not close. I don't understand it. Look, but then again, I rarely do. I mean, I'm old. I go back to Woodson beating Peyton Manning for the Heisman, which was the most absurd Heisman vote in my lifetime that I can remember. It still is mind-boggling to me. But, that's why I'm saying you want value. I've wasted $5 on worse things than betting on Michael Penix to win the Heisman. Because if he, we were talking about Gabe says, what if he throws for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns and Nick stinks? Does that vault him over him? I don't know. Again, I wasted $5 on worse things to win $100 almost.
It could. I just have no faith that it will. I mean, at this point, I feel like everything's going in Bo Nix's favor. And I mean, Jeff's kind of has the point, but not really.
He's better than we give him credit for. Did you watch him play at Auburn? He was horrible.
I think he's
a lot like Drew Brees. On what planet is Bo Nix like Drew Brees?
I'll admit, he won't be Drew Brees, but I think he could be like elite NFL, like an average NFL quarterback. I think he'll be better than Kenny Pickett or Mac Jones.
He'll be a B-U-M. I said Will Levis was going to be a bum, and I still think he's going to be a bum. And I think Bo Nix is going to be a very similar quarterback to Bum. You live on this planet. Okay, well, maybe I don't know. Maybe you and I should go have drinks because we'd probably have fun. That's what I'm just saying. I don't know. Gabe Henderson says Bo Nix is Mac Jones 2.0.
Yeah, I think he'll be a little better version of that. That's what I definitely don't want the Saints to draft him. That'd probably be, if they do draft him, that'd probably be who they'll take, because they just say.
Jeff, you're on. I don't know how we relate this and like say successful or not. I mean, him being a starter or being drafted first or higher than someone else, I'm not sure. I mean, he's going to win the Heisman, so that's not what I'm betting on. So I don't know. You tell me how we bet on that, and you got yourself a friendly bet. Now I'll Spencer can tell you I don't necessarily pay off my po' boy bets like the next day. He had to wait like 10 months for his po' boy, so. You know,
you paid though.
I finally did pay. I finally did pay. Dwayne says Daniels is the future. The Saints need to do what we can get him. Man, I think Jayden Daniels would be a fantastic quarterback. That would be to me, Jayden Daniels is the perfect kind of quarterback to draft around. You're not going to get Caleb Williams probably going to go first. Drake May's going to go second or in the top 5 or whatever. But to me, Jayden Daniels is a quarterback. If you're not drafting first, second, or third or whatever, if he makes it to you, he's a guy you definitely could build around. I keep comparing him to Jalen Hurts, sort of. He's not as strong as Jalen Hurts, but I think he's a better passer than Jalen Hurts. But that's kind of the guy that I think I would most likely compare him to. But then again, if you're going to bring him in, then you got to build an offensive line around him too, because the Saints absolutely need to overhaul that entire offensive line. The only good player they have on the offensive line is now hurt. Eric McCoy got hurt yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why, honestly, they might just – and Jayden's probably going to go – I think his stock keeps going up to where, unless the Saints trade up, which Mickey Loomis isn't afraid to trade up.
No, he's not.
So I'll give him that, but it's usually not for a QB. So
well, maybe we'll be wrong on some. Maybe we'll be wrong on something. If we just get one thing, it's like asking for all these things for Christmas, and you only get one thing, and you kind of like remember as a kid, you'd be like, well, all right, and then you forget about the other things that you asked for anyway, and you love that thing so much. So maybe that's it. Maybe if we just get one thing we're asking for, it'll be fine. All right, Jeff, I get it. All right, you can let it go now. I get it. I hear you. You're on.
Jeff loves him some Bo Nix.
I'm telling you, we can find a way to quantify a bet here, and we'll put something together. It'll be we'll bet a po' boy or whatever. I think you and I would probably have a fun talking for a half an hour or whatever. All right. Tulane and SMU before we go off the air. Oh, by the way, hey there, Terry. We didn't ignore you. Sorry, we're going crazy, getting a lot of comments. We thank you all for the comments and questions today. You still have a few minutes if you want to get them in there before we go off the air. Again, we're going to go back to that Saints slide before we finish, but I want to throw out there, Tulane is a 5.5-point favorite. Our friends at Caesars Sportsbook. Line kind of surprised me, Spence. I thought Tulane would be favored, and I know before Uncle Big Nick says anything, he's going to be all over SMU. But I thought this line would be a little bit lower. And if you look at these numbers, the thing that Tulane may have a little bit of trouble with, SMU has a really good defense. They have the number 1 passing defense in the AAC, the number 2 rushing defense. So I kind of like the under in this game because I don't think Tulane's going to allow a whole lot of yards.
Yeah, especially with the news of SMU's quarterback being out. So yeah, with that in mind, yeah, I kind of think the wave and the under look like the best plays as of now. You know, I have to look at the trends and all that, do more research. But just seeing that news of the QB being out, that's just like, well, to me, I feel like the Sharps are going to hammer Tulane at this point. I think this line ends up at around 6.5 with the news of the no SMU starting QB because he's only a sophomore, but I was looking, it looked like their backup's only a freshman, so they're not a lot of experience.
And you don't want to be doing that against Tulane.
There. So yeah, with Tulane's defense, to me, unless Tulane turns the ball over a bunch, to me, if Tulane protects the football, they should win this by double digits. That's
going to be an interesting game for sure. We're going to talk more about this game on Thursday. Tulane SMU AAC championship game, 2nd year in a row for the Green Wave. Again, they have a chance to make a New Year's Six bowl. It would either be, I believe, either the Fiesta Bowl or the Orange Bowl, from what I understand. Those are the 2 bowls that Tulane would probably go to. If they were to win on Saturday, again, I'm sure Uncle Big Nick will be all over SMU. We'll have to see how that goes. Dwayne says Tulane will cover. And he also says, we passed on Lamar Jackson and drafted Davenport. I mean, that was a different coach. One thing I will say that the reason why if you want to have slight hope, if you want to have a slight chance of hope that the Saints would do something they wouldn't normally do, because I do think whether he quits or is fired or whatever it is, I don't see them not moving on from Pete Carmichael. I don't see how Pete Carmichael survived. There's going to have to. I think DA keeps his job, but I think part of it is going to be one of those things like Brandon Staley last year, where Brandon Staley stayed, but he had to make changes among his staff. I think Dennis Allen's going to have to make changes on his staff, whether he wants to or not. He might want to. So I just don't see Pete Carmichael surviving all this. And if you bring in a new coordinator and you bring him in early, he can be part of the decision-making process and what you need to do in the draft. Wouldn't that be a breath of fresh air? Again, we're not going to count
definitely. I mean, they should have done it last offseason, but yeah, I mean, the problem is if they end up winning a division, they probably won't. But if they miss the playoffs, then I definitely think they will and should. Even if they make the playoffs, they should, because they're going to get their butt whooped round one. So
I think okay, UBN, we'll see. I know you're going to take SMU. You're not fooling me. I think that I don't think Pete Carmichael wants to be around. Look, one of the problems I have with this current team more than anything, and someone brought it up earlier, this team has no heart. They have no soul. So they can talk about Cyber Monday and whatever they want to talk about and cut the hating in half or whatever. How about y'all go play like you give a damn? You play like you give a damn and lose, I'm fine. If you play with heart and go out there and bust your butts and like you're trying and, oh, sorry, we missed the pass over there. Sorry, it was a false start and I didn't know it, even though the other 21 players on the field were all moving at the same time. I thought it was a false start. I just stood there like a dummy. I mean, if you want to, all these things, play with heart, play with determination, play with focus. If you can do those things and you still lose, it is what it is. So, I mean, that's all we ask. Just play like you care. And no one seems to be playing like they care. You can talk a game
Alvin Kamara.
Other than Alvin Kamara, he had I loved his comments this morning. By the way, plugging my own show, selfish, shameless plug here, but I talk about that and I read his quote on the air. What Alvin was saying, he is the only one that cares. He may not be doing what he did before, but he is playing with heart. And he's the only one telling it like it is in that locker room. God bless Alvin Kamara. They need 51 more of those. All right, tonight before we go off the air, Spence, the Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. There are so many reasons to pick the Vikings and none to pick the Bears, but that means you should pick the Bears, right?
I kind of like the Bears in this spot. I mean, Justin Fields looked pretty good in his return, and the Josh Dobbs thing is his Linsanity run is over, as they were saying, because it's just, I like the Bears in this spot with the points. I don't know if they'll win straight up, but I think this will be a close, kind of ugly game, and Justin Fields has a lot to prove here down the stretch. Brian Flores loves to sit in the house, but Fields, I think, will be able to get, he's a mobile QB. I think he matches up pretty well here. So you're probably thinking, why is Minnesota only favored by 3? I think the Sharps know something here. I'm going on with the Bears if I have to pick.
Yeah, that is a weird line. I'll give you that. Minnesota's defense has been playing better though. But I will say this: it's there's all kind of trends supporting the Vikings, which is weird. The Bears, I think, have lost 10 in a row to division opponents, which is awful. I mean, it's not that
Don't
good of a
bet the
division.
Mortgage on them.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
And then Gabe was saying something I'd heard this morning as well. I think the favorites are 12-3 against the spread this week. The first time ever. I think they said as many as I can't remember if it was the first time ever that 13 could win. It's the first time ever. Yeah. There's never happened before where 13 favorites have covered in the same weekend. That could happen if Minnesota covers tonight. So there's a reason. I mean, if you like trends, you would bet on Minnesota saying that. If you don't care about trends or if you think it's got to be broken, then bet against it. I don't know. I'm not putting a whole lot of money on this, and I have not I've had 3 pretty subpar. I'm going to be nice to myself and say subpar weeks. It has not been good for my picks at all this week, but I'm going to take Minnesota. I think they're going to cover. I know everything goes against them when you're talking about things that have to be broken at some point. I don't believe in Dobbs at all, but I think the Bears defense is getting. I've heard people talking about they're pretty decent now. I'm like, what games are you watching? I don't think they're good at all. I think their passing defense is especially bad. So I think Minnesota will be able to throw the ball a little bit. I think it's gonna be a lower scoring game. If I had to bet, I would take the under. I would take the under, I think. But I'll take the Vikings for a flyer. You got the Bears, and no big whoop.
Yeah, well, don't bet much on this. Maybe if you're feeling, you just want to have some fun, maybe the +3 and the under. parlay are. If you like the Vikings, then them in the under. But yeah, this is one I won't be putting much, if anything, on it.
I don't think the Vikings are going to necessarily blow them out. What might not be a bad bet is if you wanted to tease the Bears in the under, get the Bears to +9 and the under to 49. What would it be, 49.5? That might be a good bet. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got plenty more to talk about coming up later this week. On Thursday morning, Uncle Big Nick will be with me on Datitude. We will have our pick segment. Let's hope it's better than last week. Whew. I don't know. Maybe I ate too much before we even got to Thanksgiving. I'm not sure. I definitely was turkey-ish. We'll see how that goes. And then Thursday afternoon, the crew will be back. We will have plenty to talk about all the conference championship games. We will preview those. We will preview the Saints and the Lions. We will talk about the 49ers and the Eagles, I'm sure. All kinds of stuff coming up on Thursday on Bayou Bets. Hope you can join us. And hope everybody has a good week. Stay warm. It's a little chilly out there. What's going on? Temps in the 30s on the North Shore tonight.
Wow.
I have to actually break out my coat. We'll see
you. Up on the South Shore.
Exactly. We'll see you on Thursday. Everybody have a great week.